Good morning, everybody. I am very excited to welcome you to day 3 of the Food System Change Online Congress. This morning, we will be talking about cities and the many different ways in which they can take responsibility in the production of food. And I'm very interested. I live in a city myself, and so as most of us do, I think. So it's going to be interesting. And then later on in the day, we will look at the impact different projects can have on politics. This is panel discussion number 3. And then session number 7 will introduce everybody to innovative financing systems. Let's talk a little bit about the next 90 minutes. We will begin with 2 wonderful presentations. One is by Pascal Hardy and the other one by Filippos Polatsidis. And then after those, we have a Q&A session planned. Joining us for this session is city planner Beatrice Stude from Vienna. And if you have any questions throughout, be sure to write them down. At the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A tool, so you can write your questions there. And you can also, if you are observing the questions and see one that you like, you can leave a little like and vote on it so that we can make sure to answer those if several people are interested. As those of you who have joined us in the past 2 days know, there is a lot of additional information to be found on our website. If you go to foodsystemchange.org, and click on the header outcome, you'll not only find our informative niche posters, but also for this session specifically, there is a great video about urban agriculture in Oslo. So we can have even more European countries involved. Yeah, this session will be recorded. And if you would like to not be recorded, but have something to add to the conversation, we can make that happen. There is a little hand on the bottom of your screen. I have a screenshot to share. Let me pull that up for everybody. Here we go. So if you here we go. So if you see this little hand at the bottom here, you can click that and then I can give you the possibility to speak so we can have a more active discussion. If you don't want to have your voice recorded, just write all your questions in the Q&A tool. There's also a chat for longer discussions if you just want to share your information or interesting thoughts that you have. Good, I think we can stop that. And then, if you have any more technical difficulties, please also let us know in the chat. We have people behind the scenes who can help you. And I think that's all the boring stuff. We will move on to the fun stuff. I am very happy to introduce you to our first speaker. Pascal Hardy is the founder of Nature Urbane, Europe's soon-to-be largest rooftop urban farm in Paris. Welcome, Pascal. The floor is yours.
Hello everybody. I will share my screen so that you will see nice pictures instead of my head, and that's better. But also to visualize what we do, and then I will come back to the screen. So let me show you this for a second. There it is. Can you please confirm that you see my screen? Okay.
Yes, it works.
So let me introduce myself first. I'm Pascal, so as it was said, I'm the founder of Agripolis, which is a company that builds vertical urban farms, and also Nature Urban, which is about to become the largest urban farm on a rooftop in Europe. Very shortly, I used to be a consultant and then managing a consulting firm on sustainability and environment for years and years. And this is my background. And you will see that in what we do, this is almost the most important component. I mean, including environmental issues on food production. Then I moved, after consulting, I created a small company dealing with circular economy. That's why you have this complicated picture on the screen, because circular economy is something very territorial and very complex. And then I created Nature Urban and Agripolis. Mostly first with this technique, you see towers, growing towers. And as you can see, I'm right in the middle of strawberry plants there. Let's move to the subject. This is what we do on the glimpse. And I was asked to go to write the theme of the day and tell what are the best practice from our knowledge for food production in cities. So I won't be long on explaining what we do, but I wanted to show you the aspect of these towers and gutters for cultivating. And this one is on the rooftop of an hotel. I will show you a short video why I moved to the subject so that you can see what we do. And so the subject is about best practice, our first topic. In our opinion, what are the best subjects, the best practices to have, I would say, a virtuous food system from a vertical farm? I would say the first best practice is obvious, is to design a sustainable production system. It means that even in the equipments, even in what we, with the suppliers, we have to be very demanding on sustainable issues. And all the equipments you will see on these farms, as shown on the screen now, are designed, I would say co-designed with our suppliers. And for example, our growing towers include the maximum possible recycled plastic we can, because and we are looking for other innovations. But I would say your production system has to be virtuous. And the next issue, from my opinion, is to try to build something new. It's not so obvious because many people in cities just try to reproduce what we have seen on the countryside. I mean, it's not the point. The point is to build something that is environmentally friendly, well thought, and to design technical and economical model that is different from the classical one. And it seems obvious, but it is not. You have to from my opinion, when designing an urban farm, you have to think to all aspects and think about the farm as an ecosystem in itself. And so that's what we try to do. We trace all the aspects of suppliers, but externalities, outputs, everything as an ecosystem. We try to close some loops, especially with green wastes, and this is an approach that is quite different from traditional farming, and sometimes than traditional urban farming. If you consider these big indoor farms, we all know, but and with leads and things like that, because these farms are not so virtuous in terms of environment and especially in terms of energy. So it is important to have a systemic view of the farm, and it is important to consider all what's happening on the farm and from the farm or to the farm to have a proper view. And this requires to address all externalities issues like water, like green waste, like spare parts, etc., like packaging, everything. And what one thing we try to do is to deal with, of course, outputs also, and not to reproduce what is done elsewhere. I don't want to be caricatural, but in our farms, we use all the um, organic techniques, even if we do not have the right to use the label, because in France, vertical farming doesn't have the right to use the organic label, but we use all the techniques from the plants to the fertilizers and everything. And even if we do not have the right to use the label, I think it's the right way to do it. So it is important to see the farm as an ecosystem, and that an ecosystem that is integrated to other systems. And the other aspect, last best practice, I would say, is don't forget, of course, the social aspects, because a farm is not something isolated, especially when it's in a city. So you have to work with schools, as you see in these pictures on one of our farms. You have to set some workshops. You have to share many things. If you want the farm to be accepted, of course, but it's far beyond this. If you want people to know what you do and adopt your views on environment and other aspects. I was asked to tell you what are the challenges we were connected to deal with. Um, so just to tell you what this picture is, it's a thermic picture of Montreal, and as you can see, the areas, hot areas and cooler areas, and I would say that urban farms are also designed to deal or to contribute to deal with those big issues like climate change and to fight against heat islands. And that's why I put these pictures. So about the challenges, we had to be light and scalable. And so to design our techniques to do so, because we didn't want to be an intensive indoor farm, which are not environmentally friendly, as I said, but we had to produce, because the aim of a farm is to produce food. And so it's a compromise, and we wanted to be on several places, because if you are not light in terms of weight but also in terms of installation, then you cannot spread the idea. So we worked on two, I would say, major innovation: a closed circuit system, which allows to save resources and to have little inputs in the system. And also the other aspect, the other innovation, is the connected farm, allowing to monitor all this and to get some alerts easily. So that was our first challenge, to be light and scalable. The second challenge was to respect this, I would say, middle way strategy, to be on several places with uh, um, quite cheap farms, but productive, and also to be light to reach many rooftops. And that was not the easiest, because if you are with these techniques, you are more exposed to insects, you are more exposed to climate, to wind, and things like that. So it's not an easy way, but I think it's a virtuous way, and that's what we like. About financing, we had an original, I would say, original way to do. We are not the only one, of course, but uh, we are financed only by individuals, either business angels, so people want to have some money and want to invest, or crowd. And so now Agripolis is developing. We have something like 850 shareholders. So some people just put 100 euro in the company, and others put, I would say, 10,000. But all these people are mixed in our financing systems, and I think it's also a good way to do. And we wanted to be uh, independent, so that's why we have these systems, both crowdfunding, it is precisely called crowd equity, because we are a private company, and business angels. Being a private company doesn't mean that we are only profit minded. And we have used a special law that was issued recently in France, and it is this law allows private companies to tell what is their environmental or social goal. It's called entreprise à mission, mission and a company, I would say. And that leads us to have a different goal than profit. And this is the in the founding text of the company. So it's not because we are a private company, for, I would say, practical reasons, that we do not have environmental and social goals. And maybe to tell you what were our latest developments, I would say that now we have created our technique. The latest developments are about fine-tuning for being balanced in economic terms, and technically also to be more resilient, considering nuisance like storms, wind, or insects, or diseases. And this is really our challenges, because many urban farms in Europe are not do not make any profit, or even lose money. So the first thing, even if you are a non-profit, is to balance the economical aspects, and also to be technically efficient. So considering the way we think urban farms should develop, this is a fractal picture of a special kind of cabbage. Why do I use this picture? Well, the answer is in the picture itself. Because if you take one small part and zoom on it, then you see the same picture as if you look at a large scale. What does it mean? It means that every unit like an urban farm has to be a small ecosystem and has to consider itself in relation to the whole aspect. And this is a good key, I think, for urban design around urban farms, because you cannot, I think we have to give up the idea that there are areas in the city where people must sleep or live, other ideas where they have to shop, other ideas where they have to have companies and things like that. And the use of the city is more mixed, and we have to, in my opinion, think about cities this way, as a fractal and as to mix uses in on the same building. To give you an example, we should be able to have a urban farm on the rooftop, house flats on the low on the other stories, shops on the ground floor, car park or company or whatever on the other floors, even in the underground. And this is something that is quite uneasy to do. Even to put a farm, just a farm on the housing compound is not easy because of regulations, because of the way architects or urban designer consider the way to build these buildings. And so it's a change of view. And I hope this picture gives you some insight of the vision of a city where uses would be mixed and buildings would be production units, also companies, also housing and other uses or shops or whatever. And I think the cities would be more helpful this way. In terms of timing, Lydie, can you tell me?
You are perfect. If yeah, you have like 1 minute left if you want to keep going.
Well, my final message would be that setting an urban farm is not just setting a production unit. And as far as I see, successful urban farms, from my point of view, deal them with many aspects. They deal with social aspects, as I said. They also have some workshops, team buildings and things like that for companies. They include people on social aspects, and they retail their products on many types of outputs, like shops, but not only restaurants, some communities, direct selling, things like that. I'm a little critic with the, I would say, intensive indoor model, just delivering food under plastic to supermarkets. And I'm a bit skeptical about this, because these, what they do, I would say, technically is very interesting, but it's not environmentally friendly, and it doesn't address all the, I would say, concerns of classical agriculture. And if we want to set a new model, we have to address these aspects, not only food miles, but also outputs, water, climate change, everything. And in my opinion, this is the goal of an urban farm.
Very good. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for giving us this insight into the world of Parisian urban farming. We are now going to move on to Greece, and we will hear from Filippos Polatsidis about his work as a grassroots activist. Welcome, Filippos.
Good morning. So nice to be here.
We're happy to have you. All right, you can start your presentation now.
Yes, sure. My name is Filippos Polatsidis. I'm a social activist from the sunny Thessaloniki in North Greece. I joined movements against the public water company privatization, also some movements to secure urban spaces. And since 7 years, we have created the team called the Polatsidis, which in Greek language means in English language it means gardeners. And I will present you some of our aspects. Some bits of information about Greece. We have already 10 years of financial crisis. 1 year in a strict lockdown due to the pandemic. Just to give you an idea, we are not allowed to travel from municipality to municipality at this point, only to go to work or for a very serious reason like going to hospital and emergencies. And we need to send SMS when we go out of our houses or to declare to the local authorities the reasons that we are going out. For example, we send the number 2 to go to the doctor, or we send number 1 to go to the supermarket and things like that. So yes, the situation is quite serious and it's not getting better. That's the biggest problem here. That's why we have many difficulties in implementing our projects, although we are managing quite well over this 1 year of pandemic. Furthermore, municipalities and district authorities do not run urban gardening projects, or they are not very focused on creating projects like this. And green and unoccupied spaces are very scarce. Unfortunately, we do not have projects like Prinzessinnen Garden in Berlin or Alt Tempelhof. We don't have projects like this that we can show to the people and act as a role model for the others. But we are trying to create projects like this. So, as I told you, no plans for urban farming or food policy councils on behalf of the authorities, which means that the city people are excluded from their choice or the right to grow their own food. And the biggest issue is that around 1/3 of the population depends on social benefits or their social network like families, friends, or church, or communities like our community to survive and bring food to their table. We need always to remember that 1 year of strict lockdown means that people are unemployed. We do not have tourism during the summer season, which created, a domino of social problems in the population. So, what do we do to try to respond to these problems and to the people's needs? Our intention is to provide a holistic approach responding to people's needs based on the pillars shown below. We speak about food security, we speak about accommodation support, healthcare, education, and culture and recreation. So food is a very essential part of our projects, but it's not the only one. We try to see the person as an individual that has different needs, and we try to support the individual in many aspects, and also to empower the people and motivate them. So we reclaim food. We reclaim food like dry food, fruits, vegetables, fish from different sources, such as the central grocery market, the central fish market, supermarkets, street markets, fish shops, farmers, etc. we do with this food. We cook for families, for homeless. In the cooking process, we involve not only the locals, but also the immigrants, the refugees, the asylum seekers, because we are a, let's say, multinational group of people who work together. And we try to cover different needs, because homeless have somewhat different needs and different capacity than the people who have a house. And we try to let's say, to match the needs with our capacity. We also process food, the donated food that we get, into tomato sauce, marmalade, pickles, and fruit pies. This is a picture, an old picture from 2017, and you can see some ladies and some men from Iran and Afghanistan that were at that point in our group, and they were preparing tomato sauce. Every November, we organize the Solidarity Olive Collection. As you might know, we have many olive trees in Greece, so we collect these olives from abandoned or donated, let's say, olive trees, and we share the produced olive oil with the people that were part of this process. And also, of course, we donate some to people who were not able to join the activity. And this is a very empowering activity, just to let you know, because people from the city who do not have any type of knowledge and experience on olive collection, they find it very amusing and entertaining and empowering to contribute to this activity. We also have a project for beekeeping. We teach the art of beekeeping to everyone who is interested. We get very positive reactions from people when they join our beekeeping group, and they see how the bees are connected into their own society and their own groups, and how they form these connections and relationships between them. It's very empowering, and I think people are really enthusiastic on coming to the bees. The problem is that the bees are not inside the city, because cities in Thessaloniki, authorities do not allow beekeeping inside the cities and inside the parks, which means that it's not easy for us to travel in another municipality, as I told you, due to the lockdown, and to have these projects. It is very challenging, because we face the risk of getting a fine when you are caught in another municipality or in a village 20 or 30 kilometers from Thessaloniki. Also, we don't have community-supported agriculture schemes in Greece, at least not very extended ones, not very developed. But what we try to do is to bring together farmers and producers with consumers. So we bring them in contact. Both sides can benefit when the middlemen are no longer part of the equation, and both sides also develop a relationship of trust. Let's say this is the best thing that we can do for now, that resembles somewhat the CSA scheme. As I told you, we are also interested in running accommodation programs. In the house that we have and we use as a base for our activities, we have a young refugee from Pakistan living inside. So alongside with our activities, cooking, collecting food and other stuff, this young boy also is a member of the team and helps us with all these activities. And he's been living with us, I think, for about 1 year. And it's very empowering to see him grow with our own team together and doing stuff together. And this is a very good example of how a small community of people with a small project, because we are about 20 people, can affect so many people and deal with everyday problems and try to solve them. So, how do we do things? We identify needs. For example, we identify people who need hot meal or dry food packets or accommodation. Or we identify the need for an urban gardening project. The first thing to do is to turn to our own community and ask for resources, either for food, for a car, for transportation. If we cannot cover the specific needs from our own community, then we ask other communities and other organizations that deal with similar activities. And we are pretty good, very well connected with other organizations also. We wish that our intention is to cover the needs of our community, as I told you, both locals, immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers, by engaging more people in this circle of solidarity. We motivate the people we help by providing them a safe environment in which they can explore their capacity, share their narratives, and feel productive. One way to achieve this is by offering non-formal education, like gardening, like beekeeping, some classes, let's say, about food processing and things like that. So, times of pandemic. During the last 1 year, we had to stop all urban activities or urban gardening activities, as there is a strict lockdown and movement restriction. We had an agreement with a school in Thessaloniki to start an urban gardening project since more than 1 year, but we have never been able to start it due to the lockdown. So the best thing that we can do for now, at our own risk, because this place is not in Thessaloniki, it is a little outside of Thessaloniki, is to create our own organic cultivation and beekeeping community. We already started workshops on trees grafting, herbs planting, and now we are preparing the ground for planting summer seasonal vegetables, because we are already in the spring here. When the pandemic began 1 year ago, we feared that our team would be dissolved because we were not able to meet in person, and there was also the movement restrictions. Instead, we had online meetings every Monday, and this worked very well because our community of people had great need to share feelings, stories, and common goals. And not only we did not dissolve, but more people came in the team, which was fantastic. And to be honest, I was not expecting that because there was a lot of fear at that time. So our community grew bigger and more people came and were very willing to contribute. Our people are very happy to contribute to our activities. During these difficult times, being a part of a community can be empowering. This is what our people are saying. And we did also some online workshops for stress management, some presentations and discussions on other bigger projects that are our future, let's say. Housing and social solidarity economy projects from Project House Potsdam and in Wolle in Germany. And we were supposed to go to Potsdam to visit these projects, but all plans failed so far. And some moments of joy from our team. That's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This was very informative. I see people clapping. Very good. And I also see lots of questions. That is great. Thank you, everybody, for sending those in. Yes, to get even more insight, we're now going to be joined by Beatrice Stude, and Ms. Stude is going to contribute from her unique viewpoint as an urban planner. Beatrice, as an urban planner, where do you see more possibilities for urban agriculture projects? Do all of these projects need to find a big rooftop or abandoned spaces, or do you think cities can create spaces specifically for such projects?
Yes. Hello from Vienna. Maybe I add that I'm also an activist and member of community-supported agricultures, and I'm a co-founder of a trust to secure a land for communities, just to give you a bigger picture. And of course, I think cities have a responsibility and should take more responsibility, because food production is a vital part of urban development. Because if you produce within the city, you have less transportation, which means cleaner air. There was a question about plants and air pollution. So I can more or less talk about Vienna. We have a lot of flat rooftops, which are empty, which we could use for either energy, plants, community use as terraces, or community gardening, or even rooftop greenhouses, or combine some of these things. So every city has a plan how to develop the city. So usually you have a zoning plans, and Vienna started in 2004 to create an agricultural development plan. So they said, okay, this area should be prioritized for agriculture. So it's about land, because the real estate market offers a lot of profits if you build houses, but not for agriculture. So there's a huge demand for the authorities to say, okay, we need to provide space for food. And that's why we zone the city into different parts. This is housing and commercial, and there's land for agriculture. And maybe in the future, we have some categories which say, okay, in the ground floor, we have shops. In the middle, people are living. And on top, we have some nature, because we built the house there, and this land, we took this land from the nature. So I totally agree with Pascal on that.
Great. Yeah, I was just thinking very similar approaches. That's always good to hear. You seems like you're on the right path if two people can come to the same conclusion. Let's see, shall we get to some questions from our audience? I see Pascal's already answered some in the chat. How about, oh yeah, someone is asking if you can explain in what way your farms are like an ecosystem, Pascal. I think you mentioned this in your presentation. Maybe we can clarify that a little.
Yeah. We just there are many aspects and many levels. Let me just talk about the inputs, and the main inputs that are water and nutrients. If you consider nutrients, you can buy them from a shop or a factory, and you have a specific type of nutrients. They are mineral, I don't know the exact English term, but mineral nutrients. But you can also use organic nutrients, which are issued they come from either algae or farming outputs. Okay, and you can also include microorganisms, so that you do the same reactions and the same phenomena you have in the soil. But concerning the inputs, if you only put mineral nutrients, then you won't have the quality of food and that's what's happening, for example, south of Spain. We all buy tomatoes coming from south of Spain, which have no taste. And also your nutrients come from a factory. And if you want to be more responsible, then you use mostly organic nutrients coming from other farms. And that's an example of what you can do to connect different farms and to behave as an ecosystem. Sorry, I could take 20 examples like this, but this one is, I think, very, I would say, topic is a good example of what can be done. But I can take the example of water. I can take the example of packaging. I can take the example of many inputs. And as I said before, we use only organic techniques. So we do not put any industrial pesticides and things like that. We only use insects and products that are not dangerous for health, either for the plants, the animals, or human. So I could take many examples, but if you want to address correctly this issue, then you have to take each item and think how you could close a loop or use outputs over another activity, and then tackle every problem one after the other.
Yeah, but quite a holistic approach. That's interesting. You mentioned so there is a collaboration between cities and farmers in more rural areas, because someone asked there about let me see what the exact question is. Someone asked, does anyone know of the current state of the art about rural-urban nutrient partnerships? So the input and output and how to collaborate between cities and farmers. So you're saying that there is a collaboration happening. You're getting these nutrients from the farms. Yeah, is that the case for other people as well? I don't know, Filippos, Beatrice, do you know of such things?
Yeah, I would say there are two levels. The one I said about nutrients is a good example. It's either from farmers or from fishers or sea farms, because when the nutrients come from algae, then it comes from fishers or I would say sea farmers and not land farmers. But the other level is that you cannot, most of the time, you cannot produce in the cities all you can produce in the countryside. So you have to set some mixed retail systems, and many urban farms in France and in Europe, I'm sure, mix outputs, and they sell their products, but they also sell products from local farms around the city. And that's another level of collaboration, which has to be reinforced, because urban farming is not against country farming. It's a new model, as I said, and it's complementary to the classical models, especially those that are virtuous and those that are local, because the big trend we all have in Europe, we can all feel in Europe, is to move from organic, and we all know organic can be just a term, can be just a brand, but sometimes organic is not so interesting or virtuous. And we are all now moving from organic to local production, and to local production, we know how it's made. I mean, virtuous local production. And this is a big market trend and the big behavior trend of consumers in Europe.
Okay, thank you. Beatrice?
Yeah, I'd like to add that I think there are a lot of alliances and systems to subsidize, but the big question, I think, is the distribution. So how do consumers know? For example, the community-supported agriculture I'm a member of, we had problems to find new members, and everybody we talked to was like, oh yes, a nice system. And now after the pandemic, this is a good outcome of the pandemic, they have a waiting list for members. So no need for marketing any longer, I guess. And the other thing is that, I mean, this is special for Austria because we have this high supermarket concentration here. And the supermarkets say where they get their products, and they take the products which are from Spain or wherever because they're cheap. And they have organic products, but often not from Austria or not that much. So how do you get the local farmers to the consumers? How do you connect them? And there's an initiative which I support in Vienna who want to build up a participatory supermarket, which is a bit more complex, but because people work there and help, we reduce personal costs. And therefore, the products will be affordable for everyone, for all the ones who want to become member and work within the supermarket. It's about 3 hours every 4 weeks, so not that much work. And the aim is to connect with local farmers and with urban farming, and to be the market for local produce in Vienna. And there are some very successful models in New York, the Park Slope Food Corp. And in 2017, the La Louve in Paris opened. So these are ideas we need to connect. We need to connect all the dots, I would say. And municipalities can help, but supermarkets are commercial companies and municipalities, so they have a different way to deal with things. Let's put it like that.
Okay, thank you. Very, very interesting idea. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit later, but I think I want to move on to Filippos. Many people in the audience are very, very inspired by your work. We had very many positive comments. One question is, all right, so starts off with a compliment. It looks like a very nice and effective project that looks at several aspects at the same time. Congratulations. I wonder how you get funding for the main team managing the Polatsidis project.
We are volunteers. All of us are volunteers, which means that we are not getting paid or reimbursed somehow for our work. We get donations from individual people and also from some grassroots organizations from Germany. And also we accept some donations from company programs of social responsibility. But most of our work is how to do everything without money. And we try to explore opportunities and to get connected with people and with other organizations, as I told you. So not to use money and to use our own, the people's resources, more or less.
Okay. Do you think that is, of course it's important work, but do you think that is something that should be solved by policymakers, that there should be some sort of incentive in creating more projects like this? What are your wishes?
During the pandemic, which is ongoing in Greece, and unfortunately it's getting worse over time, many people start wondering about food sovereignty, about accommodation insecurity, and many organizations, informal organizations and groups of people were formed in the base of solidarity. We have discussions on how to move on to the next level and how to push the local authorities and the government to create councils regarding food sovereignty and food production. I understand that we are very that other countries are very well ahead for this type of projects. We are struggling so far, but I think one opportunity in this big pandemic and financial crisis is that people came together and start wondering how to do things better in the near future.
Yes, yes, certainly. If we're talking about financing, I think someone in the chat asked Beatrice, how do you get those private investors, the ones that are actually building these houses, to install a roof farm? Is there a strategy? What do? You just show them successful projects like Nature Urbane, or?
Vienna has this reputation of affordable housing scheme and is subsidizing a lot of housing, but this is just new developments. So they could take a look at that and could say, okay, maybe less cars in the underground and more nature on the rooftop, something like that, because developers need to calculate as well. But on existing buildings, we could think about corporations, to collaborate, and maybe people give, like in crowd invest or crowdfunding, their money to build up something like that. And after that, they will have a profit, or maybe they just get their vegetables directly from the neighborhood rooftop or something like that. So if we think about that with a diverse group of people, we would be able to come up with a lot of other ideas as well, I guess.
That's good. Yeah, I know Nature Urbane, that you offer fruits and vegetables in boxes that people can order, right? Can you think of other ways that people can find their way to some regional food? Pascal, do you want to? You're selling. Are you happy with your current system?
Sorry, the question is about
Yes,
diversification.
No, from what I understand, the produce that you produce, so fruits and vegetables, you offer people the chance to buy a box of.
Yeah.
Yes. So is that a good system? Are you trying to innovate there? What are your experiences?
I would say it's already a known system, because they can order. It's a kind of click and collect system. They can order their box, and then they can collect these boxes on site. So we have other ways to do. The common point of all our outputs is that all partners come on site to collect the food. We do not want to put additional trucks on the road. And so even we work with one big supermarket, and they wanted us to deliver, and we refused. And now they included our farm into their delivery road, I would say, and it's perfect, and there is no additional truck on the road, because when you do urban farm, it's very uneasy to also do logistics, and it's not the same. The same equipment. It's not the same people. It's not so. I would say let's focus on our job and do it properly.
Very good. And then I know you answered this question already in the chat. You mentioned in your presentation that you have trouble getting the organic certificate. Do you want to elaborate on that? What is the objection there?
If we would set a farm, for example, in Denmark, exactly what we do in France, we would have the right to use the organic label. But being in France, the regulations are different. And in France, it says, the regulation says that you can only have the organic label if you work with full soil, classical agriculture. So that's just a matter of regulation, and I don't think it will change. But as I said before, the next step is good local food. It's not being organic or not, because if you when we have all bought organic beans from Kenya, what does it mean? It means nothing if you have to spread 1 ton of CO2 in the air to bring your beans, or coming. It's the same for food coming, organic food coming from Eastern European countries. We can produce them in Greece, in Austria, in France. So when I say we must address all aspects, it's also a message for, I would say, organic food. and it's the same for social aspects. If you look at what's happening with production south of Spain, even organic production south of Spain, it stands on the it's almost a slavery system with daily workers coming from Morocco. They take their passports so that they cannot escape, and they are low paid and things like that. So I would say the next the next issue is producing local and virtuous food rather than getting the organic label.
Okay. Very good. Filippos, it's very interesting that your project has gotten more supporters during the pandemic. Do you think this is a good window of opportunity to change these structural issues, that this might be more on people's mind now, and this is actually a good time to be talking about your projects?
Yes, and this did not happen only to us. Other organizations also had this trend of getting more people, at least the organizations that managed to sustain their activities during the pandemic. So yes, now we are more mature, and the connections between our own people are better, and we feel, you know, like a family between us, and we support each other, and we are looking forward to do the next steps. And of course, I don't remember if I told you, we are an informal group. We don't have a legal entity, but in a few months we will have a legal entity. So there are plans and discussions on how to move on and to grow bigger, because after some point we also need some people to get reimbursement, or to get hired, let's say, to do the job in a more specific and constant manner.
Okay, thank you. Beatrice, do you agree? Do you see this trend also?
I was just answering questions.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, the trend is, I think a lot of people have reflected on what they do, how they live, how they eat, where everything comes from, how we consume stuff we don't need. So I hope, since the pandemic is still going on, this reflection didn't stop, but went over into initiatives, but these initiatives need to build up and stabilize their networks. I mean, this Congress is a good start doing that. And then I would say, need to build up digital platforms we can use and where we can communicate efficiently. and find the knowledge we need. And after that, we need an end of the pandemic to meet in person and enjoy the fruits of our labor, I would say. Yeah.
Very good. I think I agree with that. Let's see. I hope this isn't the question you were just answering, Beatrice. I'm just going to read it out. How can we integrate all the possibilities? So energy production, community garden, the market gardening, community space, and there are different dimensions to which they correspond. So let me see. Like, I think this is the same, this overall principle of the spaces. So how can you effectively put all these ideas together? Do you see a trend there? Oh, Pascal wants to answer.
Yeah, I wanna answer this question. I might sound a bit radical, but you cannot expect an urban farm to solve all the problems of the planet. And don't forget that they are either non-profit, but they need to get some financial resources, human resources, and energy and momentum. And if you want to solve all problems from one point of view, then you will miss the point, even if you are non-profit. So as Filippos said, you have to deal with local problems, and that's enough. So don't expect a farm to solve all problems. And what I can see from what's happening in Europe, some are more dealing with social aspects or food distribution aspects. Others are more dealing with environmental aspects. That's what we are trying to do. Others have a different mix, whether they are private or non-profit, but you cannot put all the constraints and at the end have something that works, because you cannot carry the weight of all these problems. So you have to choose and to be as, well, I would say, as virtuous as you can in your field, because or you will lose your way. That's my opinion.
Okay, I think Beatrice wanted to say something.
I totally agree. If you are engaged in an initiative or have a social business, work on your idea and go and just look what you can support or what is your contribution. But as a city, you need these different concepts and you need to implement them into a general strategic plan, which is quite helpful also for businesses and initiatives to see, okay, this bit is my contribution to the overall concept that we have this ecosystem which works in the long term for humans and for nature and for the survival in a nice environment. So both is true, but we also need some strategic overall plans.
Certainly, Filippos.
Local problems ask for local answers. That's why my understanding is that we need to motivate and empower the local community to respond to the problems, because people set the problems. They say that this and this are the problems that we need to face and deal with. And this is the first pillar, let's say, how the community responds. And then the second pillar is the connection with other organizations and the groups of people that deal with the same problems. And the third pillar is how to put pressure in the local and the central authorities to come with solutions, to come up with solutions to solve these problems.
Beatrice.
Yes, that's so true. And according to urban planning, it used to be top down, and it changed quite a bit in the last decades. So nowadays it's about participation. But I think the change towards we will ask the people and then we will help initiatives, and we will give them some space and some liberty to do as they wish or as they like, and not to take every initiative as a city and do it on our own, which is sometimes the case. So supporting self-organizations and networks is complex networks, I would say, is something which would be very helpful.
Do you see a potential for governing bodies to come in there and help? I know several cities have food councils now. I don't know if all of your cities, yeah. Do you see an opportunity there to get the community more involved and get real change happening?
I think so, yes. The Food Council in Vienna was created, I think, 2018. And they did this workshop with a lot of people from the city and from other initiatives to come up with a plan what is needed as policy for urban agriculture and what is urban agriculture. So it's also the community side, but also the commercial side, and it's not either or, so it's both. And how can we support that both can grow? And starting to make, I know for Vienna, it could be self-sufficient according to vegetables. So maybe that might be a good goal for the future for cities to say, okay, we want to have as much produce as possible, less transportation. And if we have less transportation, we have more space. We could use some streets where at the moment cars drive or park for other stuff, for people and for nature and for food production.
That sounds very nice. I like that idea. And then someone, Fabienne, asked a question in the chat. I don't know if Fabienne is still here, but if he or she would like to talk to us and elaborate on the question, because I'm not quite sure what they're trying to say. If you raise your hand, I'd be more than happy to give you the opportunity to speak. Fabienne, don't see it yet. Maybe they don't have the opportunity. All right, I think we're gonna wait a sec. Maybe they will show up later. Let's see. Someone asked. Oops, sorry, my screen is not moving in a way that I would like it to be. Okay, oh yeah, this is another question that Pascal already answered in the chat, but I think it would be interesting to hear the answer for everybody. The question was, how do you handle limitations of making use of organic methods when using nutrient solutions instead of actual soil? Do you want to elaborate, Pascal?
The question is about using organic. Sorry, can you
yes, of course.
repeat the question? It will be faster.
It is just talking about the difference in using nutrient solutions instead of soil, and are there limitations to that?
Okay, of course there are limitations, but what we are doing is to try to, as it is vertical farming, and we have to be light, because if you put soil systems on the rooftops, very often you don't have enough resistance of the rooftop. So it's important to be light. So we cultivate with vertical systems. And what we are trying to do, we could just put mineral nutrients and water. But I don't think it's the proper way to do. We mix mineral nutrients with organic nutrients, as I said before, and other organic inputs, and also bacteria and that allow to reproduce what's happening in to repeat what's happening in the natural soil, which is this cycle of decomposing organic elements, organic pieces into mineral pieces with bacteria, and that gives I would say the richness of the solution, and gives all the nutrients that are useful not only to grow the plant but for taste, for nutrition issues to the plant. So there are some limitations with that, but we try to be as close as possible as what's happening in the soil.
Okay, thank you. And then we just got a questions about how local residents can get involved. So from what I understand, people are able to lease their own plot of land and put a little garden there. But that is, of course, not an option for people with low income because you need to have the money to afford this. But do you see options for how people with lower income can contribute?
Yeah, well, there is a group of urban farm in Paris, especially in times of pandemic, and we are part of it. We wanted to address these issues. So we decided to, I don't know if it's the proper term, but to allocate part of our production to these people with lower prices. It's not even a price, it's a kind of a symbolic participation, so that they get into the system. And we figured, especially during the pandemic, that many students have no more resources because of there are no more small jobs for students now. They very often work in bars, restaurants, and things like that, and they are all closed. So we specially addressed them. So that's a way to address these issues, and that is linked to what I said before. Don't forget some aspects, because if you just do your own production, then you just become a business, and that's not the point.
Okay, Beatrice wants to respond.
The community supported agricultures, the ones I know, offer all their members the possibility to pay as much as they can. So the ones who have more money pay more, and the ones who have less pay less. And on average, that's enough to do this business. So this is very inclusive, I would say. The urban gardening usually is open, and it's just, I don't know if they have to pay anything. I think it's for free or really low threshold. But so this is very good for meeting people and for the social cohesion compared to the high prices in the supermarket, which are compared to the European Union, to other countries, are really high in Austria. So a place where you can buy good food, not an organic little shop where it's really expensive, and where you get everything, so which suits your daily routines. You get to a shop and you can buy anything you need for your daily life. This is something which is needed, and the participatory supermarket, we think, is the answer for that.
Very good. Thank you. Filippos, do you have any ideas on how to get people with a lower income involved? Of course, you do a lot of work for refugees, and that's great. So certainly there are relations there.
Yes, if we focus on the urban gardening projects, we need to invite the community to the project. But before we do that, we need to be very specific on the rules and terms and the conditions that will apply in this urban project, in this urban gardening project. At least this is what we did before the pandemic a few years ago when we had some urban gardening projects. And the key point here is to provide a safe and respectful environment for the people. I mean, there should be an already established relationship of trust before we start the project. It's not only to provide the basic tools and the water and the soil. It's also to provide the know-how and the connection with the people. And from my experience, this worked very good. And I remember on 2016, we had the first people coming from Syria, the first refugees. They were coming to Thessaloniki before they go to Germany, most of them. And we had many people from Syria that were farmers in their own places, and they helped us very much with the urban gardening project that we had at that time. And it was very empowering and also very empowering for both sides, because we could not speak the same language. They were Arabic or Kurdish speakers. We spoke Greek and English, but the common ground was the ground that we were digging and planting, and it was very heartwarming.
That sounds great. And do you use the same system that Beatrice described, where people can contribute on a scale of money if they want to, buy or use some of the produce from those projects?
Well, as I told you, we don't have CSA scheme running. What we do when we have an excess in quantity of, let's say, or some vegetables in the previous projects, we sold these products between our community. And of course, the price was not the same for someone who could afford with someone who could not afford.
Very good. We have about 8 minutes left. If anybody from the audience would like to participate, has some comments, has ideas or new projects that you think our panelists should hear about, you are welcome to raise your hand and I will let you talk to them. All right, Tommaso, here we go.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. So I'm really happy to be present here and really interested in all the presentation of the three panelists. Thank you very much. I have a very general question about what's the attitude of local administration. I heard a bit Beatrice, I think she said something. My internet connection was not really stable, so I've lost some pieces, but I wonder if there is support, no support, blocking or help, or what's the general view? Or we're talking, imagine, of local municipalities or whatever other entity responsible for public spaces, for example, or anything about this topic I would be interested in too. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Okay. The city of Vienna and also Austria as a country has had different calls on this topic. So the last call of the economic agency in Vienna was on urban food. So it invited anybody with ideas to do something on urban food, to create new things. So there's this possibility. And yes, sometimes I would say it's difficult, because if you don't have this startup, you have a product and then you have this profit at the end. It's hard to get a business plan, and it's hard to get people to give you some money, or the municipalities to give you some money. So maybe we should change our way of thinking about economy and how it works. And the biggest challenge of the future is that we will have a lot of people who will have lost their jobs, and so they don't have financial resources, but they have time. So we could take that as an opportunity and deal with that, and find new ways to get people into the bigger picture, or of the food production. And yeah.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Tommaso, for your question. And then I think we have a very interesting question from Uwe Volk in the audience. Do you also want to speak up? If you raise your hand, I can make that happen. Or if you would prefer, I can read out your question. Uwe Volk, are you still there? I guess not. We can. Okay, we can move on. Maybe if you want to connect at a later time. We have 3 minutes left. Fabienne just raised her hand. Let's see. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for giving me this chance to. Yeah, I'm actually super interested in how you specifically implement this kind of dynamic prices, Beatrice, in to make it more inclusive. I really love that inclusivity was raised as an issue, because I do feel it's still a major challenge in many of those kind of alternative initiatives. Also, we feel that in Zurich, not only because of money, but also language and even time, even though, yeah, you are right, there is an increase of time. But I would really be interested in if that is purely based on solidarity, if it's a bidding process, yeah, how you implement this. So it's also a bit removed from the stigma of paying less or more, you know.
Okay, at the beginning of the year, all the members are invited to be member for the next year. So it's an annual membership. And you say how much you can afford to pay, so they can calculate. Mm-hmm. And there's a general assembly with all the members. And if the calculation doesn't fit the costs which are expected for the next year, there will be like who is able to pay more.
So it is a bidding round. Yeah. A bidding round. And usually after 1 or 2 rounds, it's done. The money is there. And if there comes up a problem like the tractor, how do you say in English?
I think it's the same tractor.
Tractor, oh, sorry. The tractor was too old and was about to go bust. And they did a crowdfunding campaign and created a great cooking book. So there's always an opportunity to invite the members or even other people outside of this community to contribute and get some money for things that just come up and which you have to deal with. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fabienne, for the question. And I think that will conclude our session. Thank you very much for all these amazing audience questions. Thank you to our wonderful speakers, Pascal Hardy, Filippos Polatsidis, and Beatrice Stude. We appreciate your input, and we are looking forward to your contribution to future urban agriculture. Right now, there is a coffee break scheduled. There should be a link on our website if you want to go meet some other people. We can also put that link in the chat now, but you can find it on our program schedule. All right. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Right.
Bye.